Hello travelers, welcome to Alextar Travelog. It's been a long time since my last trip due to the reasons we all know about. But today I'm glad to share with you some useful tips about one of the most amazing cities in the world, Istanbul. It's formerly known as Byzantium and Constantinople, is the most populous city in Turkey and the country's economic, cultural and historic center. Istanbul is a transcontinental city in Eurasia, straddling the Bosphorus Strait, which separates Europe and Asia, between the Sea of Marmara and the Black Sea. Istanbul is one of the world's largest cities by population, so let's see what interesting things we can find in this city. This time I'm going to start the travelogue from the very beginning of my journey. I started in Kiev Borispil Airport, so wait for an episode about the airport lounge later. Currently, there aren't many straight flights to Istanbul. I booked a ticket of Turkish Airlines. This was my first flight with this company and I don't know how they operated before, but now I think they did their work really good. Everyone had to wear face masks as anywhere else in public places. All flight attendants paid attention to all passengers' safety even though the plane was full. Before the boarding, anyone can take a hygiene kit with one mask and 2 antiseptic wipes. During the flight, there was a meal which was in a pack with a sandwich, a piece of cake, juice and a bottle of water. Not bad in the current situation. During the landing, you will enjoy beautiful views of Istanbul and Bosphorus Strait, if you choose a seat on the left side of a plane. I arrived to Istanbul New Airport. Everyone could hear that it was the largest airport in the world. Well, I'm sure it is. Istanbul Airport is the main international airport serving the capital. It is located in the Arnavutköy district on the European side of the city. All scheduled commercial passenger flights were transferred from Istanbul Atatürk Airport to Istanbul Airport on April 6, 2019, following the closure of Istanbul Atatürk Airport for scheduled passenger flights. The IATA airport, code IST, was also transferred to the new airport. The airport will be able to accommodate 200 million passengers a year by 2025. Make no mistake about it, the new terminal is beautiful and you'd expect. The airport has really high ceilings and breathtaking design. This is the world's largest terminal and there is not a train system connecting any of the gates. You have to navigate all 15.5 million square feet by foot or using the moving sidewalks. It serves more than 350 domestic and international destinations in 110 countries, while its duty-free area is one of the largest, if not the largest, worldwide. For the time being, only one terminal is functional and 4 runways, out of the 6 in total when the project will be utterly completed, are in operation and 5 concourses are home to the numerous airlines that fly from and to the airport. Last but not least, the services and facilities provided at the airport are one of a kind and, of course, cutting-edge technology is applied all over the environmentally friendly airport. All in all, Istanbul Airport has already become a major transportation hub connecting 3 continents, Europe, Asia and Africa, and will be developed into an even more significant aviation center as time goes by. I visited Istanbul in August. At this time, Turkey was already opened after quarantine for a month. Of course, there aren't many people now, The airport looks empty, which is not bad because you feel safe and move faster. People receive luggage faster than pass the customs. There are no queues anywhere. For the moment, Istanbul Airport buses run from and to the airport with a ticket ranging from 5 to 30 lira, whilst Istanbul Airport taxis are available around the clock, reaching the city center in about 50 minutes with an average tariff of 200 lira. I used a bus of Hawaii's transportation company. There are around 15 routes from airport to different places in the city. I took the bus number 15 to Aksaray station because it was the closest stop to my hotel. Watch my review of the hotel where I stayed soon. The transportation system in Istanbul is really convenient and modern. There are buses, trams, subway, ferries, taxis and others. I mostly use tram T1 Blue Line because it passes all the most popular places. Traditionally, the first stop for all tourists is Sultanahmet Square. It is also known as Hippodrome and surrounded by the famous Blue Mosque, Hagia Sophia Museum and Museum of Turkish and Islamic Arts, one of the most famous tourist areas in Istanbul, as well as a popular meeting point. Here you can see the obelisk of Theodosius. It is the ancient Egyptian obelisk of Pharaoh Thutmose III, re-erected in the Hippodrome on Constantinople by the Roman Emperor Theodosius I in the 4th century AD. Sultanahmet Mosque, also known as the Blue Mosque, is an Ottoman-era building. A functioning mosque, it also attracts large numbers of tourist visitors. It was constructed between 1609 and 1616 during the rule of Ahmed I. Its Külliye contains Ahmed's tomb, a madrasa and a hospice. Hand-painted blue tiles adorn the mosque interior walls, and at night the mosque is bathed in blue as lights frame the mosque's 5 main domes, 6 minarets and 8 secondary domes. It sits next to the Hagia Sophia, the principal mosque of Istanbul until the Blue Mosque's construction, and another popular tourist site. The design is the culmination of 2 centuries of Ottoman mosque development. It incorporates many Byzantine elements of the neighboring Hagia Sophia with traditional Islamic architecture and is considered to be the last great mosque of the classical period. The architect synthesized the ideas of his master Sinan, aiming for overwhelming size, majesty and splendor. The upper area is decorated with approximately 20,000 hand-painted glazed ceramic in 60 different tulip patterns. The lower stories are illuminated by 200 stained glass windows. The mosque is preceded by a forecourt with a large fountain and special area for ablution. An iron chain hangs in the court entrance on the western side. Only the Sultan was allowed to ride into the mosque horseback, and he would need to lower his head to not hit the chain, a symbolic gesture ensuring the humility of the ruler before Allah. The many lamps inside the mosque were once covered with gold and gems. Among the glass bowls one could find ostrich eggs and crystal balls. All these decorations have been removed or pillaged for museums. The Sultan Ahmet Mosque is one of the 5 mosques in Turkey that has 6 minarets. According to folklore, an architect misheard the Sultan's request for gold minarets as 6 minarets, at the time a unique feature of the Mosque of the Kaaba in Mecca. When criticized for his presumption, the Sultan then ordered a 7th minaret to be built at the Mecca Mosque. The mosque is always free to enter for anyone. Only remember to take off your shoes before going inside. There are special shelves where you can leave your shoes. Women aren't allowed to enter in the center of the mosque main hall. On the other side of Sultanahmet Square, there is one of the most famous religious attractions, Hagia Sophia, or official the Hagia Sophia Grand Mosque and formerly the Church of Hagia Sophia, as a late antique place of worship in Istanbul. Built in 537 as the patriarchal cathedral of the imperial capital of Constantinople, it was the largest Christian church of the Eastern Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, and the Eastern Orthodox Church, except during the Latin Empire from 1204 to 1261, when it became the city's Roman Catholic cathedral. In 1453, after the fall of Constantinople, the Ottoman Empire, it was converted into a mosque. In 1935, the secular Turkish Republic established it as a museum. In 2020, it reopened as a mosque. Built by the Eastern Roman Emperor Justinian I as the Christian Cathedral of Constantinople for the state church of the Roman Empire, the church was then the world's largest interior space and among the first to employ a fully pendentive dome. It is considered the epitome of Byzantine architecture and is said to have changed the history of architecture. It remained the world's largest cathedral for nearly 1,000 years, until Seville Cathedral was completed in 1520. Its interior is decorated with mosaics and marble pillars and coverings of great artistic value. The temple itself was so richly and artistically decorated that, according to much later legend, Justinian proclaimed, "Solomon, I have outdone thee." In early July 2020, the Council of State annulled the Cabinet's 1934 decision to establish the museum, revoking the monument status, and a subsequent decree by Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan ordered the reclassification of Hagia Sophia as a mosque, so today hundreds of people arrive from everywhere to pray in this fantastic temple. On the eastern side of Hagia Sophia there is a square with the fountain of Sultanahmet III, and there is the main imperial gate of Topkapi Palace. There is also another entrance on the western side of the palace. It's more convenient if you come to the palace by tram from Gulhane. This entrance is very interesting because the road leads tourists by the alley with historical buildings and some artifacts of Roman period. Parts of ancient walls, constructions and pillars are left open air, so anyone can not only see and take photos but touch these treasures. As anywhere else in famous places of Istanbul, there is a safety check on the gate to the park in front of Topkapi. From here, you can go to ticket offices where you can book tickets to different parts of Topkapi. The ticket to Topkapi Palace cost 100 lira and harem 70 lira. Topkapi is the Ottoman palace, famous for being one of the most beautiful landscapes that make up Istanbul's skyline, a treasure trove of history on the historical peninsula. Following the conquest of Istanbul in 1453, the construction of the Topkapi Palace was started in 1460 at the request of Fatih Sultanahmet and was completed in 1478. After entering the gate of the palace, you can start your journey turning right. There are palace kitchens on this side. After the initial kitchens were destroyed by a fire in 1574, the great architect Sinan built the kitchens that are still seen today, with their 20 chimneys. They were divided into 10 sections: kitchens of the Sultan, the palace school, the harem, the outside staff, the general kitchen, the drinks, pastry, dairy, warehouse and cook sections. The dormitories, the hammam and the mosque of the staff disappeared. There were about 800 employees preparing meals for 4,000 people. The next point on Topkapi tour will be Gate of Felicity. It represents the presence of the Sultan in the palace. No one could pass this gate without the authority of the Sultan. Even the Grand Vizier was only granted authorization on specified days and under specified conditions. The gate was probably constructed under Mehmed II in the 15th century. Behind the gate there is a beautiful building in the third court. Is the audience chamber. It's also known as the Chamber of Petitions. The building dates from the 15th century. The main throne room is located inside the audience chamber. This square building is an Ottoman kiosk, surrounded by a colonnade of 22 columns supporting the large roof with hanging eaves. The third courtyard, which was strictly forbidden to any foreigner, is decorated with a luxuriant garden and is surrounded by numerous buildings. The throne room, the Imperial Costume Exhibition Hall form a dormitory of the Expeditionary Corps, Inner Treasure, Exhibition Hall of Miniatures and Manuscripts, Exhibition Hall of Watches and Clocks, Private Room which contains the Pavilion of the Holy Mantle, the Aga Mosque, the Harem, the Eunuch's Apartments. In the center is the beautiful library of Ahmed III. The library is a beautiful example of Ottoman architecture of the 18th century. The exterior of the building is faced with marble. The library has the form of a Greek cross with a domed central hall and 3 rectangular bays. The fourth arm of the cross consists of the porch, which can be approached by a flight of stairs on either side. Beneath the central arch of the portico is an elaborate drinking fountain with niches on each side. Moving forward, you will reach the fourth courtyard, also known as the Imperial Sofa, was more of an innermost private sanctuary of the Sultan and his family, and consists of a number of pavilions, kiosks, gardens, and terraces. It was originally part of the third courtyard, but recent scholars have identified it as more separate to better distinguish it. Topkapi Palace is located in one of the oldest historical regions of Istanbul. Located on the historical Istanbul Peninsula between the Marmara Sea, the Bosphorus and the Golden Horn, the palace is one of the iconic structures of Istanbul. Topkapi Palace was the administrative, educational and artistic center of the empire for approximately 400 years, from Fatih Sultan Mehmed to the 31st Sultan Abdülmecid, as well as housing the dynasty. The Baghdad kiosk is situated on the right side of the terrace with a fountain. It was built to commemorate the Baghdad campaign of Murad IV after 1634. In the middle of the room is a silver mangal, a present of King Louis XIV of France. From the mid-18th century onwards, the building was used as a library of the privy chamber. The interior is an example of an ideal Ottoman room. This pavilion is one of the last examples of the classical palace architecture. For going to the famous harem part of the palace, you can visit Imperial Council. It is the chamber where the Imperial Council, consisting of the Grand Vizier and other council ministers, held meetings. The domed chamber of the building is called Kubbealti, which means under the dome. The council building, situated in the northwestern corner of the second courtyard next to the Gate of Felicity.
Allah daha büyük zaferler nasip etsin bu aciz kullarına.
The present building dates from the period of Suleiman the Magnificent. The Imperial Council building consists of 3 adjoining main rooms. Tower of Justice is several stories high and the tallest structure in the palace, making it clearly visible from the Bosphorus as a landmark. The Imperial Harem occupied one of the sections of the private apartments of the Sultan. It contained more than 400 rooms. The harem was home to the Sultan's mother, the Valide Sultan, the concubines and wives of the Sultan, and the rest of his family, including children, and their servants.
Buraya geliyorlar. Duydular mı acaba konuştuklarımızı?
Sen. Ve sen. Maria, Alexandra, yürüyün gidiyoruz.
The harem consists of a series of buildings and structures connected through hallways and courtyards. Every service team and hierarchical group residing in the harem had its own living space clustered around a courtyard. The number of rooms is not determined, with probably over 100, of which only a few are open to the public. These apartments were occupied respectively by the harem eunuchs, the chief harem eunuch, the concubines, the queen mother, the sultan's consorts, the princes, and the favorites. There was no trespassing beyond the gates of the harem except for the sultan, the queen mother, the sultan's consorts and favorites, the princes and the concubines, as well as the eunuchs guarding the harem. The harem wing was only added at the end of the 16th century. Another door leads to the courtyard of the eunuchs, with their apartments on the left side. At the end of the court is the apartment of the Black Chief Eunuch, the 4th high-ranking official in the official protocol. In between is the school for the imperial princes, with precious tiles from the 17th and 18th centuries and gilded wainscoting. At the end of the court is the main gate to the harem. The narrow corridor on the left side leads to the apartments of the odalisques, white slaves given as a gift to the Sultan. Many of the eunuchs' quarters face this courtyard, which is the first one of the harem, since they also acted as guards under the command of the chief harem eunuch. The spaces surrounding this courtyard were rebuilt after the Great Fire of 1665. The complex includes the dormitory of the harem eunuchs behind the portico, the quarters of the chief harem eunuch and the school of princes, as well as the gentlemen-in-waiting of the Sultan and the sentry post next to it. The main entrance gate of the harem and the gate of the Kushhane connected the Enderun court leads out into the Kushhane door. The dormitories of the harem eunuchs date to the 16th century. They are arranged around an inner courtyard in 3 stories. The inscription on the facade of the dormitory includes the deeds of trust of the Sultans Mustafa IV, Mahmud II, and Abdul Majid I, dating from the 19th century. The rooms on the upper stories were for novices, and those below, overlooking the courtyard, were occupied by the eunuchs who had administrative functions. There is a monumental fireplace revetted with the 18th century Kütahya tiles at the far end. The chief harem eunuch's apartment adjacent to their dormitory contains a bath, living rooms and bedrooms. The schoolroom of the princess under the control of the chief harem eunuch was on the upper story. The walls were revetted with 18th century European tiles with Baroque decorations. The apartments of the Queen Mother, together with the apartments of the Sultan, form the largest and most important sections in the harem. It was constructed after the Queen Mother moved into the Topkapi Palace in the late 16th century from the old palace, but had to be rebuilt after the fire. Some rooms, such as the small music room, have been added to this section in the 18th century. The courtyard of the favorites forms the last section of the harem and overlooks a large pool and the boxwood garden. The favorites of the Sultan were conceived as the instruments of the perpetuation of the dynasty in the harem organization. When the favorites became pregnant, they assumed the title and powers of the official consort of the Sultan. The Golden Road is a narrow passage that forms the axis of the harem, dating from the 15th century. It extends between the courtyard of the harem eunuch and the private chamber. The Sultan used this passage to pass to the harem, the private chamber, and the imperial terrace. So, now you see that Topkapi is really a place rich of historical and cultural treasures. You can learn so much about the life of Sultan, his family and favorite women here.